There is a specific kind of silence that only exists in the suburbs at 3:33 a.m. It's a heavy, unnatural quiet. It is the sound of thousands of people holding their breath. In quiet neighborhoods from Ohio to the Pacific Northwest, homeowners are waking up to the same digital notification, a motion alert. They roll over, eyes stinging from the blue light of their smartphones, and they open the feed. The driveway is empty. The street lamp casts a harsh, jaundiced yellow light across the pavement. The wind isn't blowing. The trees are frozen in place. But if you look at the timestamp, the feed is stuttering. It drops from 30 frames per second to 12, then 8, then 4. The AI is struggling. It is trying to process a shape that the software cannot categorize. It is trying to resolve an object that refuses to be rendered. It looks for a fleeting moment, as if something, or someone, is standing directly in front of the lens. Perfectly, impossibly still. Welcome to the Midnight Habitats. We are told that smart technology is a tether to reality. If we feel afraid, we check the app. If we hear a noise, we consult the cloud. We have outsourced our vigilance to silicon and code. We trust the camera more than we trust our own peripheral vision. But what happens when the camera stops serving us and starts observing something else? I spoke to a man named Arthur, a retired actuary living in a cul-de-sac in suburban Indiana. His house is a standard issue 1990s build. Vinyl siding, a sensible lawn, a porch light that flickers just a fraction too often. He didn't want his last name used. He didn't want the neighbors to start looking at his house differently. Arthur's cameras have been triggering at 3:33 a.m. every night for 3 months. He has reached out to tech support. They told him it was a ghosting error caused by light refraction from the nearby street lamp. They told him the firmware was struggling with the contrast between the dark porch and the artificial light. But Arthur sent me the files. I spent 6 hours scrubbing through the footage. There is no light refraction. There is only a density, a slight localized warping of the air directly in front of the lens. It looks like heat haze on a highway, but it's localized. It's hovering exactly where a human face would be if someone were standing on the welcome mat. The most disturbing part isn't what is there, it's what isn't. The motion sensors are designed to trigger when they detect thermal signatures or physical mass, but the air temperature in the frame doesn't drop. There is no sound of footsteps. There is no shift in the ambient hum of the neighborhood. The house is simply reacting. We have begun to map these incidents. It started as a trickle of reports on niche forums, threads titled, "Why Does My Ring Go Off at 3 a.m.?" or "Digital Ghost in the Suburbs." Now, the map looks like a scatterplot of infection. The clusters are always the same. Neighborhoods built in the late 80s and early 90s, the era of rapid suburban expansion. Homes constructed quickly, often on cleared land that once held nothing but timber or field. There is a theory gaining traction among those who study what they call architectural rot. It isn't a supernatural theory. It's something colder. The idea is that these houses, these mass-produced wood-framed boxes, are not as inanimate as we believe. Through decades of neglect, of stale air, of human misery contained within drywall, of arguments echoing against cheap insulation, the building begins to memorize the presence of its inhabitants. It's an imprint, a digital ghost in the physical machine. Think about the way your own home feels when you're the only one there. Think about the way the walls settle, the way the shadows seem to occupy corners that shouldn't be dark. We dismiss it as house noise. But what if it's a form of structural memory? What if the house is trying to simulate the people who built it, lived in it, and eventually left? The camera doesn't see a ghost. The camera sees a glitch in the house's attempt to reconstruct a memory. It is 3:15 a.m. You're sitting in your living room, the glow of your monitor, the only thing keeping the room from dissolving into shadow. You look at your phone. You see the feed of your own front door. You find yourself doing something strange. You find yourself watching the screen, not because you're waiting for an intruder, but because you're waiting for the lack of one. You are watching for the moment the frame rate drops. You are watching for the moment your own home decides to become a stranger. This is the psychological toll of the midnight habitats. It isn't fear of a monster. It is the fear that your sanctuary is no longer yours. We have spent decades populating the suburbs with cameras, turning our homes into fortresses of surveillance. We wanted to be safe. We wanted to see everything. But by installing these windows into the night, we have inadvertently invited something else to watch back. We have invited the architecture to look at us. There is a clip from a home in suburban Georgia. The camera is mounted above the garage. It is 3:33 a.m. The notification pings. The homeowner, a woman who is now selling her property, left the camera recording for the full duration of the motion event. In the video, a shadow appears on the driveway. It is not cast by the street lamp. It moves against the grain of the ambient light. It drifts toward the front door, stopping exactly 3 feet from the frame. The camera's infrared lights kick on. Usually, this makes the world turn a pale, washed-out green. But in this clip, the light doesn't hit the shadow. It seems to be absorbed by it. The shadow is a hole in the reality of the feed. And then, the motion alert clears. The shadow vanishes, but the house remains. The house is still there, waiting for the next night, waiting for the cycle to repeat. We try to find comfort in logic. We tell ourselves it's a glitch in the software, a server error, a bug in the AI's facial recognition algorithm. We need it to be a bug, because the alternative is that our homes are beginning to drift away from us. That the mundane, boring suburban life we've built, the cul-de-sacs, the manicured lawns, the driveways where we park our cars, is becoming something else entirely. Something hollow. The silence of the suburbs is a fragile thing. It is maintained by the assumption that we are the only ones living here. But when you wake up at 3:33 a.m. and see that empty driveway, that perfect, static-filled silence on your phone screen, you have to ask yourself, if there is nothing there, why is your heart beating so fast? If there is nothing there, why are you afraid to turn off the lights? Perhaps you aren't afraid of what's outside. Perhaps you are afraid of what's inside, looking back through the lens, learning how to be human again. If you like the story, please subscribe the channel